And hello, everybody. Welcome to another attempt at this narrative live, where we're going to be reporting about Ghislaine Maxwell and her what could be her freedom in the near future. There's a lot of movement in DC right now to have Ghislaine Maxwell freed, and we're doing this with Lev Parnas, candidate for Congress, and of course Substack superstar. And also, welcome to Ann P. Mitchell, who I just met today. Great to have you here, Ann. She's an attorney and
Thank
also
you.
does the Substack Notes from the Front. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Lev, tell me what you've been hearing, because I have been hearing that there are now three paths open to Ghislaine Maxwell, which could see her free sooner than we think. There's the pardon path, there's an immunity path, and then there's the motion to vacate. So tell me what you're hearing as you're doing all the rounds in the halls of power.
Yeah, no, Zev, and I'll tell you, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but it didn't just start yesterday or the day before yesterday. This has been pre-planned and going back to when Blanche went to meet Maxwell to begin with, when they gave her the cushy transfer to the different prison. We used to do when we did our specials then, if anybody takes the time and goes back to the archives, we should find them, Zev, and take a look. It was like we had a crystal ball in front of our, because we said exactly this was going to play out. And what you're seeing play out right now is a coordinated attempt. Donald Trump understands he can't come out right now and just pardon Maxwell. You know, how everybody will be after him. I mean, he knows the Supreme Court might even take away his immunity chair. So there's a strategic play, and the person that's in charge of this play is Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche, what I'm hearing is he really wants to stay as Attorney General. He's doing everything in his power, from going out there and hiring special counsel Joe DeGeneva to look into the Brenner case and other stuff like that. But with the Epstein case, some of the things that he has done is, A, he has come out and said he's not going to release any more files. He basically shut it down. But B, also, he's been painting a narrative, because Maxwell's attorney, those of you that Marcus, is also very good friends with Todd Blanche. And the relation there that has been worked out, that because Maxwell is not planning on sitting in prison while everybody's getting pardons. She's putting on pressure, saying, when is the time? When is the time? So what I'm hearing, what was played out, is basically a setup situation where people in Congress right now, you're having, and that's why you're having these conversation, names aren't being coming out. You're seeing it split, coming out, start building a narrative, talking about how we need to hear, the people need to hear everything, and Maxwell is somebody that could give us all the information, and starting to paint a narrative like Maxwell could actually do something, give us something, without reminding the people that Maxwell actually was under subpoena. She did testify. She chose to take the fifth, and came out after taking the fifth. Her attorney came out and said, well, if you want her to exonerate, literally, he said, if you want her to exonerate Donald Trump, let her give him a pardon, and she'll come out and tell you he did nothing wrong.
Right. I mean, we're not going to get anything new from her at all. In fact, what we'll get is just a lie saying that Donald Trump did nothing wrong, because that's what she's offered up as part of this deal. And is this typical of these kinds of negotiations? I mean, I've certainly never encountered this in a congressional negotiation, anything like this, not with a child abuser like this.
Well, actually, nothing is typical about anything with this administration, I have to say. But I also want to add that, as you know, there are basically three paths that could lead to her walking out of jail free, right? There is congressional immunity, which is, I think, what's being talked about right now. And then there's Trump just pardoning her, and that would be suicide for him at this point. And then there's having her conviction vacated. And that is, people probably heard about the USB drive that she sent to, the government. And that's what that's about. That's about her habeas petition. And
Can you explain that a little bit more? Because I'm really interested in what that vacating thing actually means. What does that mean?
so, well, if you're vacating a judgment or a conviction, it basically means you're voiding it. Right. So it no longer happened, essentially. And there are three reasons that you can do that. And one is if there was fraud during the trial. There's been no allegation of that, at least no credible one. Another one would be error, judicial error. And the third one, which is the one she's banking on, is newly discovered evidence. And that is what is on that flash drive. allegedly newly discovered evidence, but it's all basically evidence from the DOJ drops. So essentially, she's saying, hey, look at this stuff. I never saw that. My legal team never saw that. So we should have have, I mean, ultimately, if that were the case, there was new evidence, it would go back for a new trial. But the reality is, it's really not new evidence. But one of the most interesting parts of that legally, clinically, is that the entity on the other side of Maxwell is this government.
Yeah.
So we have this government allegedly trying to keep her in jail. And so that's a really interesting sort of sticky wicket, if you will.
Which is not what they're doing.
Yeah, just to
Right.
correct you even a little bit, it goes. It's not even the government. It's actually Todd Blanche right now.
It's yep,
right
Trump's
now,
DOJ.
You're right, and from what I'm hearing, Todd Blanche has personally taken over this situation, and this is his way of staying in his good graces. And you're right with I mean, it's similar. Look at what they just did with the January 6th. They did the same thing. They vacated their, some of the, cases, and that's interesting. I didn't even hear about that one. I'm glad to hear about that one, because the one I'm hearing about is they're and Comey, it's interesting, not Comey, Comer. Yes, I apologize.
He's the chair of the oversight committee.
Yeah, Comer's actually not that excited about this because
Not at all.
No, because Comer wants to run for governor next year. Comer has a lot of different things, and Comer understands he's put in the position right now. But I could tell you that there has been a call between Comer and Trump directly, where Trump is basically putting pressure on, where not for them to give. I don't think so much as I didn't hear about the immunity part, but I did hear about a call for giving her a pardon, where Trump will come out and say, well, people are asking for it. And, if you want it, if Congress is asking and they want me, if we need her to come out and testify. But the other interesting part I'm hearing about is it's not about just clearing Donald Trump. She's not, and there was a narrative shift also. What I'm hearing behind the scenes is before it was, Clinton, they're going to go after Clinton, but now I'm hearing that there might be some names dropped of some dead people. I don't know, of Democrats or some people that, are no longer here to be able to give some sort of an excuse that she did give something, because
she's showing up with something new.
Right. So I didn't hear the names or which, but this is the type of story that I'm hearing that is being laid out right now to give basically a Trump a way to say, well, if you want it, how he comes out and says, I mean, I don't care, I wouldn't, but if you want to pardon her because you think I'll pardon her, and that type of a thing.
He'll still, though. I mean, I think he would literally be crucified. His ratings are so low now already. But I also want to say, because there are people who are understandably kind of freaking out about this, that in terms of the House Oversight Committee, there may be a couple of people who are actually saying, well, if we give her immunity or get her pardoned, she will testify. But in order for her to get immunity, congressional immunity, 2/3 of the committee has to vote for it, and half of the committee is Democrats. So that's never going to happen. The other way to get congressional immunity is just before the full Congress, a vote there, and then there has to be a majority. So unless Trump acts, it's extremely unlikely she is going to walk.
So they have to get 2/3 of the committee to vote for a decision like this. That's good news.
Yeah.
So that looks like that's a bit of a closed path to her then.
But that's why I'm hearing it's Trump pardon time. That's why.
Right.
That's why I'm hearing. That's what they're setting it up for. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Zev.
No, I just thinking that you said it's suicide for him politically. I mean, he's already committed suicide publicly. I mean, his Iran war is so devastating. The opinion polls I was looking at today, 28% amongst women. 28% is very, very low heading into an election. Obviously, 25% was the watermark for Nixon. So if we get anywhere near that, it'll be the end game for Donald Trump, and we're just 3 points away from that. Now, this is a story that may bring him there, may take him from 28 to 25 amongst women, but he's already doing so badly. He might be thinking, how do I just get off the hook for what might come next? Yeah, because if he loses, He could be up
But
for impeachment.
can I ask you both a question? I mean,
Mm,
a lot of people, and people in the comments also I'm watching are saying this would be, so immoral of him. How could he, we're asking why is this the line we're planning a draw? What has he done? I mean, he spit in the face of all the survivors that keeps doing it. He has hid the Epstein files. He has not sitting down with the survivors and even spoken to them. Instead, he's accused them and is forcing them to try to go testify. He's come out and said Maxwell is a good person and wishes her well. He's never once come out and said he wouldn't partner. He doesn't. This is a man that it's like we keep trying to push the for some reason it's like we have to stop allowing him, and this is why I keep trying to tell people in Congress also to keep pushing the line to make sure, okay, we got to get more information on him, more information. We know he's in the Epstein files. We
mhm.
know he was best friends with him. We know he is guilty as it could be in a lot of things. We know that there are actually now 302s that we've seen, that we've heard, that we've watched of actually victims getting paid off that haven't said Donald Trump. What's not maybe if, but his name is in the 302s. So we know, folks, we know
Yeah.
this is going up. The fact that we're trying to find some, I don't know, fact that, you think that the fact that if we get Donald Trump to testify in front of Congress, that's going to be the holy grail? Absolutely not. He'll lie. He'll get up
Mm,
there. He'll make a joke out of a lie. And that's why, one of the things I push on Congress, Zev, and all the time is even every time I go there for whatever reason, I try to meet with somebody and say, enough is enough. You got enough information. You have
yeah.
enough stuff that has come out, so, and the problem is, though, we keep pushing it, but the Democrats can't really do anything. And that's why it is so imperative. It's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And the Republicans, no matter the messies, you have some of these people that really do want to see accountability for whatever reason, personal, political, doesn't matter. But you still don't have that where it matters. And that's like in the House Oversight Committee, because over there you have James Comer that runs the show. And no matter what he comes out, no matter statements he does, when Trump calls, he stands up and is like, salutes. I know
Yeah.
these people, what I'm saying to you. And same thing when you have in the Senate and all of that. So you have some people coming out and saying the right things and giving hope and everything. But until we take control of the House, until we do what we're supposed to, unfortunately, nothing's gonna drastically change, except for they're gonna keep trying to bury the situation.
Well, here's the reality. We have enough, but he has enough. The Epstein class, which is a term, in case someone isn't familiar, it's basically all the really super wealthy, rich people who have been manipulating countries and economies like Epstein did. But make no mistake, the ones that are still alive are still doing this. We have the evidence of that.
Mhm.
And many of them are in the Senate and the cabinet. Maxwell said directly to Blanchet that many of them are your colleagues in the cabinet. We
Yep.
know Lutnick. We have
Yeah.
enough on Lutnick that we should be impeaching him. So, they're not even though we have enough on Trump to open an investigation and to bring him in, the Senate's not going to do that because the Senate, many of them are complicit. He also has stuff implicating them in this whole
Yes.
Epstein tangle.
Absolutely.
Right,
Not
because this
even
is an
the
ongoing concern.
not even the Epstein angle. And I'll give you another one that a lot of people don't realize. Donald Trump has been in control of the FBI and CIA for the past year. You know how much information, if you want to go back to the McCarthy era, you don't think
Mm,
Kash Patel has files on every congressperson sitting there. And when it's time for a bill to pass or a vote, when Donald Trump makes those calls, he says, do you want an investigation opened up on you? I mean, he says it outside the light. So, I mean, this is 100%. It's not just the Epstein file. It's their literally, I mean, their corruption that they go, look at what Eric Swalwell just happened. I mean, it's all over the place.
Well, Trump was trained at the knee. Talk about McCarthy. He was trained at the knee by Roy Cohen, for
yeah.
people
Yeah.
who don't know that. I mean, that's his entire
Yep.
upbringing and modus operandi.
But this would be a fundamental thing. I mean, imagine having Ghislaine Maxwell, this notorious child trafficker, released from prison, being free in society to continue criming. Who knows what she'll be doing? She's got ties to intelligence agencies. Who knows what she'll be doing? But also the victims here, the survivors, who are already terrified of her. Many of them were being stalked by her or harassed by her before, and now they've got to deal with this new threat to their lives. Earlier on, Maria Farmer gave me this statement. She said, at a time when all survivors of Maxwell are focused on the loss of our case hero, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, we are forced to cope with threats of Maxwell being released. My sister Annie Farmer endured excruciating stress as a federal witness in Maxwell's trial. I received decades of death threats from Maxwell and associates, while the government fully ignored and continues to ignore my dangerous plight. It's imperative people protest this absurd government and its agencies who risk the lives of survivors and the case whistleblower in honor of Virginia. We need to fight. Maria she's often very determined, but this is a very strident statement from her. And, the direct threat of having someone like Ghislaine out in public is very, very concerning.
I just want to add for people who don't know, because we only just are looking into this over at, with Tess. This was always Maxwell's endgame. And one of the reasons that we know this is because the same week she was indicted, she was having massive amounts of money transferred into her husband's account, although in court records she wasn't naming her husband. But there's a SAR, suspicious activity report out there, and she was indicted July 2nd, and there were transfers to those accounts on July 9th and 10th. So she's always been planning that at some point she's going to walk out and go somewhere and live off that money.
What recourse does Maria have at this point, or any of these other survivors? What can they do when they've been ignored by law enforcement officials for decades? Are there any legal steps they can take to protect themselves?
Are you talking, I guess it depends on what you actually mean by recourse and protect themselves. I'm sorry to be a lawyer here, but
Well, I mean, firstly, can they force law enforcement to protective orders or anything like that would keep, people like Ghislaine and any of her people away from her? And if they do anything, they would immediately get sent back to prison. Are there those kinds of restrictions that can be added to pardons and those kinds of things?
No.
Yes. So I've never actually mentioned this publicly before, but I speak as a survivor of abuse, not sexual abuse, but and so I know from my own experience as well as the law that in order for there to be a protective order, there has to be an action first that rises to the level of you needing a protective order. So something would have to happen first. Now, it may well be that some of these survivors can document that she has already threatened them, and that would probably be enough, especially in such a high profile case. But otherwise, unfortunately, and it's very unfortunate, but it's also fortunate that we have those guardrails in the law that you can't just say, I'm scared of this person, because you could say that about anybody, right? So there's a real tension there.
Is there a legal step they can take to sue the president or something like that, where they can say, don't go for this, you can't do this pardon, or try and interject in the pardon?
Well, I think that's a great question. And I mean, why can't they sue the president for the actions that he's doing, and sue Melania, and sue Howard Lutnick, and sue all these people?
There has to be an action first.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be something. I have been hopeful that some of these citizen advocacy groups will actually, already have something prepared to file the moment something actionable happens. But, let's take the Jan 6 pardons as an example, right? The recourse now for those people who were injured during the Jan 6 riots is to file civil suits, personal injury suits against the rioters. So the law is not really set up to do anything other than put a monetary, amount on whatever your injury was, which is very unfortunate.
Even if the president himself is implicated in these crimes, I mean, if he's there's an obstruction of justice thing here, where the pardon is obstructing justice.
Well, this is only tangentially related at the moment, although it may become very relevant, in the future. I don't know if you saw, but just this past week, a judge once again said that Trump does not have full immunity and it's the
Mm,
Jan 6 case. This is the Jan 6 people who were injured in Jan 6 and who sued him. And he kept saying presidential immunity. And the judge ruled only immunity for acts that are within the scope of your office. And there are
mm,
acts that happened on Jan 6 that are not. And discovery is going to go forward. And that's awesome. And that's talking about the Jan 6, but it would be the same sort of thing. It would be, he would have to have already done the pardon, and then they're going to sue based on, it's not ideal. It's something.
mm. Lev, any thoughts about what Congress can do here? I mean, these are Democrats in Congress. Are there steps they can take to really be more vocal about this? I mean, it's one thing saying we're not going to vote for this, but forcing the president to at least be seen to be doing this very overt act of obstructing justice, or whatever else that they might be able to do.
No, I think there's a lot they could be doing. I mean, yes, they might not be legally, they might not have but they do have voices. And I think, instead of taking vacations, instead of going out there, I think it has to be a coordinated every day. There should be a press conference every day. There should be information being reported every day. They should be on the steps of the halls. I mean, there needs to be leadership. And that's why I say that's one of the reasons I'm running for Congress, and others like myself, people that might never have thought to be in Congress, because we need change. We need, the establishment has basically failed us, people in Congress. You have certain people, but that's not enough. One or two people coming out, Ro Khanna and Messi coming out and talking about it, that's not enough. There should be, 50 people behind each one of them, standing there each day, each morning, giving a press conference with the survivor, reminding the people, pushing the president, pushing the questions. Reporters should continuously ask, not let Trump take the, golden, little shining in front of them and them chase it. Yes, Iran's important. Everything's important. But in every press conference, there still should be a question. Is President Trump, how come you still have not sat down with the survivors? It's a simple question. How come you have not? How come your wife, Melania, has not sat down? Nobody asks the questions. Nobody wants to, everybody comes out, makes these speeches like, yes, rah, 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 we stand. But it has to be a coordinated effort and a nonstop daily effort until there's a result. And that is the only way we will get result, by using our voices.
Did you happen to notice in that really weird public statement Melania did a couple of weeks
Mm,
ago that she made it sound like she was on the side of the victims, but what she
Yeah,
really did was call them out and say,
exactly.
go debase yourself in front of
That's right.
Congress by
That's right.
testifying.
That's right.
yeah.
And then Trump doubled down on it. 2 days later, he came out and basically said that at one of the rallies he was at, and said that the victims should go testify in front of Congress and talk, because again, it's the reverse psychology. They're playing an audience that is not in tune with it, like we are here, and we know everything that's going on, and we're interested. Most of America is there right now worried about how they're going to fill up their gas tank, or how
Right.
they're going to pay their rent. So when they hear this Epstein stuff, some of them are just tuned out. And Trump is kind of with this Iran stuff, as crazy as it sounds, it's his way of really taking away from the Epstein files, because he rather people worry about their gas prices. Just think about how crazy this is, folks. He'd rather have people worry about gas prices than people talking about the Epstein files. And that's how serious, and that's something that everybody should understand and always keep in front. And that's why I say, unless we keep our voices and keep it, talking about it, this thing would have went away a long time ago. You
Right.
know?
It's amazing to me that this president is doing all this, because every time he does one of these things, he feels like he's confessing. He feels like he's saying, "I'm guilty." If he pardons her, it'll seem like he's guilty. And I have one more question for you about Todd Blanche. Like, is this something that Democrats could now use to oppose Todd Blanche as AG? Like, if they use this, if they say to Todd Blanche and everybody else, if you keep going down this road, there's no ways we're going to support you as Attorney General. Because he's playing to the audience of one, which matters. I mean, it certainly matters what Donald Trump is saying, but he ultimately has to get confirmed by the Senate.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're past those points. I think everybody understands in the who Todd Blanche is, where his loyalty lies. I think, from what I'm hearing, and I know Todd Blanche, he was one on my legal team. Don't forget, and Todd Blanche right now doesn't care what the Senate. He cares about showing Donald Trump that he's going to do things that Pam Bondi was not able to do. A, get rid of the Epstein debacle, as they call it. B, go after some of his people by, like Brennan, and the first impeachment, change the history. Not only because remember, Trump doesn't only want to change the history of what happened on January 6th. He wants to get rid of the first impeachment. He has lawyers out there, these constituent lawyers, constitutional lawyers coming out saying that he could vacate his impeachment because it was awful. So there's a lot that is, is playing behind the scenes, and the players that are doing it. So, I don't know if that explains it.
No, I get what you're saying. Marjorie Taylor Greene came out yesterday and said that absolutely Donald Trump was the one who told Pam Bondi to cover up the Epstein files. She said he said it flat out. I don't know if she heard the conversation. It sounds like she heard it. That is significant in my mind. There were obviously other people in the room who heard that there is a major cover-up going on, ordered by the President of the United States. I mean, that rises to Watergate. That rises, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Why is nothing being done on that level, Anne, and what can be done?
I mean, the part of the problem is we have a Congress who is hamstrung, right? And they are the ones who need to either pass laws or enforce, at that level laws. I mean, look, they're not even being able to bring him before, the War Powers Act for Iran, right? That's not going to happen, which is insane to me because it's so clear cut. So that is part of the problem. And as long as we have a hamstrung Congress, this is what's going to happen because Congress is supposed to be a check, on the executive branch. And honestly, thank God we have the three branches, really the four branches, if you consider we, the people, the fourth branch. But a lot of people don't realize that for the most part, the courts are the one that are holding his feet to the fire, holding him to account. And so what would have to happen there is for a lawsuit to be filed, although I'm not sure against whom, in order to, because
Yeah.
do we file a lawsuit against Congress to tell them to enforce the law? I honestly don't know how that would happen.
You
But
could
that's
file
what
a
has to
lawsuit
happen.
against the president, right? Because he's the president. Presumably
Well,
you can do.
actually, there are so many lawsuits against the president right now. I mean, it's a beautiful thing against all his executive
Yeah.
orders, and so and he's losing, but people don't really
There-
know that because that's
right.
not what the news cycle puts out. So that's
But we couldn't
where we
just go
are.
after the cover up here and say, hey, we're accusing you of covering up and ordering these cover ups, according to Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Oh, we
of the
could.
Epstein files. Yeah.
We could. We just don't have people on the Republican side that have a backbone enough to be able to cross over, and we don't have any leadership on the Democrat side to be able to have them come over. So, because we have a perfect storm and Trump's using that, that's why these elections are so important. That's why we keep talking
Absolutely.
about it every day. Because and Trump knows it himself. That's why you have Bannon, Trump, all of them coming out and say we're going to go to jail, we're going to get impeached. They know what's going to happen. But but before we go, I want to also touch on. I want to make sure that everybody goes out there and make sure you call your Congress people, because I want to make it clear. Do not assume that just because we win the House that there are people there that want accountability. And this is the scary part that I'm hearing when I go to Washington, D.C., that there are actually people on the Democratic side that are saying, let it go, move on. We don't need, they're not going to impeach him anyway in the Senate. Let's not waste the time. Let's not waste it. Let's do something else. And that is something that is extremely scary to me, because that cannot happen. And that's why we need to make sure we let our voices loud and clear. And folks, just if I may, Zev, we have a little movement going on right now. We're putting together, if you guys can, go to calls for Congress at proton.me, register your email, and we'll get you the information as soon as we set up. But it's going to be a protest on the likes they've never seen. People using their phones to make their phones going to be called, flooding the zone, calling Congress into demanding until we get action. So I just wanted to do a little shout out.
That's great. What's the email address there that people should use?
It's calls for Congress at proton.me.
4 is the actual FOR, not the number 4.
FOR, yes,
Okay.
FOR.
Calls for Congress. Okay, at proton.me. And
can I just add that
Yeah.
because we're talking about the upcoming midterms, that I want everyone to be so clear because this administration does not want you to think otherwise, but constitutionally, the states are the one who control the elections, even federal elections. So no matter what the federal government says, no matter what Trump puts out, all his executive orders trying to make it harder for people to vote, it's all worth the paper it's written on. The states run the elections, period. And, he can monkey with mail-in with the post office. So just take your ballot to a drop box and drop it off, or take your ballot to the voting station if you have a mail-in vote ballot. But the states, just keep repeating this mantra: the states run elections, even federal elections.
It's important for everyone to know. Ann P. Mitchell, tell everyone where they can find you and your work, and a little bit about the test project if you want, because it'll be great for people to follow you. And if you are watching this show from Lev and my audiences, please follow Ann. She's got terrific insights into the Epstein affair and other legal issues.
Yeah, on Substack, you can find me at Ann P. Mitchell. Just like it sounds, the name of my publication is Notes from the Front, but it's not Notes from the Front at Substack. It's Ann P. Mitchell. And I've been really working a lot with this amazing project. People can see it at the-projects.org. And that is the project where we have TESS, which is this very high-powered search engine. TESS stands for Taking Epstein Survivors Seriously. And we have pulled in not only all of the DOJ and House documents, but all sorts of different databases. So we have the Panama Papers in there, we have the ICIJ in there, we have flight records in there, we have financial records in there, we have court records, and TESS will cross-reference everything and develop a narrative where every piece is tied directly to one of the authenticated documents. So she literally connects the dots. So for example, because we have all these other databases pulled in, we can see where who moved money through what shell corporation
So useful.
to
Yeah.
what
Amazing.
ultimate recipient. I mean, it's just, and I can't take credit for any of that. It's my amazing, Randall is his name. And Randall is someone who has massive coding experience and finance experience. And then we also have someone who is a financial tracing expert with decades of financial tracing, tracing illegal financial transactions for both the government and the private sector, who can help make sense of some of the things we're turning up. So it's an incredible, but it's available for access to legislators and legislative staff, credentialed journalists, and lawyers who are working on Epstein-related cases.
I got so many
Wow.
questions for you, Ann.
I was gonna say I'm so happy that you introduced me to Anza. I'm actually gonna introduce you to a lot of people in Congress. They need to use tests. This is great.
This is great.
I will have to tell you, Lev, so I am no stranger to working with legislators. I wrote federal law. I'm familiar with
Beautiful.
it, but we have made so many calls to so many people
I know.
about, just trying to offer them access to
Yeah,
tests,
I
and
know.
crickets. And part of that
Crickets.
is because, as lawyers and legislators tend to only want to use their own research because that's all they trust. But this gives them a tool for their own research, and I think they're just not getting that.
Well, I'll just give you a little. You are officially part of the wolf pack, and we and So no, we have a good relationship right now with certain groups in Congress and the Oversight Committee that we are building, and I will. Offline, we will speak, and I will introduce you to the proper people and make sure that definitely they're using tests with some of the stuff, especially me and Zev are working on behind the scenes, that could be very useful to some of the stuff we're trying to trace, right, Zev?
Absolutely. Really as Ann was talking there, I've got so many questions to ask her, and a financial guy. I'll keep him busy for a long time. That's amazing. Thank you, Ann, for being here. And Lev, do you want to talk about your your site or your run for Congress? Anything else you want to share with anybody?
Right now, folks, we'll talk about Congress a little bit later. But right now, the most important thing is if you can go to register your emails at calls for Congress at proton.me. We're expanding. We have a lot more people joining our fight. And once we're ready to fully launch, we're going to try to do a movement like never before. Instead of going out there and protesting in the streets, we're going to use the technology, use our phones, use our emails, and be able to go out there and flood the zone and try to demand action. So please go register. That's calls for Congress at proton.me. And also, while you're there, make sure support Zev Shalev. He does some incredible work, and people like Ann, independent journalism. Tomorrow is going to be a big day on Substack. We're going to have a big event for independent journalism, since there is no independent journalism when it comes to Trump's. We're never going to go.
The way he sees the world.
Right.
But you're going to the White House Correspondents' Substack event, right?
Yes, I'm not to the White House. We're going to go to the South. It's going to be fun. We're going to be live streaming. There's going to be a lot of, independents. So support all your local independent journals, whoever you appreciate, whoever you like, because that's what it's all about. And Zev, you're the man. I appreciate you, doing what you do. It's great.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate both of you. Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you at home for watching, and important stuff. Let's just keep what Maria said about the Ghislaine Maxwell potential immunity here. We need to fight. This is not a fait accompli. Let's fight to keep Ghislaine Maxwell in prison for the crimes she's committed. That's the show for today. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you again next time on Narrative.